What's up, guys? Welcome back to our On the Dyno series. I'm Bob Morelli, your host, and today we're going to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly for each of these software tuning options for your OEM or your stock vehicle computers and your standalones. Let's get to it. All right, guys, so let's start over here with our stock computer related tuning software. So when you're doing tuning on a stock computer, which is all of your, street strip kind of vehicles, those sorts of things, you're almost always going to use one of these two brands, which are going to be HP Tuners or SCT. And the idea behind this is it gives you full control over your vehicle's computer. Now, the goal here is to understand what's good about each of these. Now, if you're using something like HP Tuners, it's incredibly powerful, but it requires in-depth knowledge that you need to get from places like the tuning school. However, when you use something like SCT, it also is very powerful, but these guys are also focused on providing you more of a ready-to-go solution if your vehicle is not incredibly modified. So, for example, you can go buy yourself a Mustang or whatever your vehicle of choice is and go get yourself the SCT device that you prefer, an X4, and in it are typically preloaded tunes that are ready to go that you pick. I've got 91 or 93 octane or whatever the case may be. And so this works very well for that type of an application. However, SCT does actually also offer dealer level tuning software where you can get as deep as you want as well. So that's what the ups and the downs of SCT. Also, one more thing is their hardware is incredibly great. Their handhelds are great. That's always been a strength of that brand, the hardware interface, and the customer then gets to retain that handheld device. So even if you're a tuning shop, you can give them a couple different tunes, like a 91, a 93, a race tune, or whatever it is you want to do, and they, at their own pace at home, if they want to switch things around, they can. So that's some of the upsides with SCT. HP Tuners does some similar stuff, but it's not quite the same. The way they operate is the tuner retains the device, and the tuner is the one who uploads and downloads. However, they also have a similar system called the RTD, where the tuner can give you, the customer, a device to go home with. The only difference is you use typically a phone application to move the tuner's tunes through the device that they take home and on with their car. So the same sort of application process happens, but the strength in HP Tuner stuff is that it's typically software robust as opposed to hardware robust. And it's good hardware, don't get me wrong, but you're not going to have digital interfaces like you do with SCT, and this is more of a pass-through type device, and it works really, really well for people that want to get really in-depth with tuning, and the scanning software is definitely the best, bar none. The scanners that come with SCT is good, but the stuff with HP Tuners is just amazing. And so if you're a tuner getting in depth, this is definitely a great solution. And it's definitely better in that department because good tuners need scanners with a lot of powerful data to tell them exactly what's going on. So just depending on what your application is, what you're doing, if you want to get really hardcore and in depth, or if you need just a simple solution to send to a customer, they're both good options. They both have some strengths and some weaknesses that way. So let's move on to our standalones. A common question we get in class is, how do I know when I need to move to a standalone from a stock computer? Because these are basically uploading and downloading and flashing the stock computer. Over here, you have standalones, and this is a transitional point for a lot of cars. So let's say you've got a C6 Corvette, and it was stock, and you did some mods like headers and a cam. Great, you could tune it with either of these. Let's say you've thrown some boost at it. Cool, you can still tune it with either of these. Let's say you're starting to throw some meth injection at it, or some nitrous, or some E85 and some other stuff, and you start to build what we call silos. Meaning now, in order to get your Corvette to perform at its peak and be safe while doing it, you have different controllers. You have a turbo controller for your Corvette, you have a meth injection controller, you have a nitrous, or whatever your controllers are. As things start to stack up, the factory computer does not know that they exist. And so if something goes wrong, it can't do anything to stop the problem or prevent an explosion. Another time I tell people it's time to kind of move towards a standalone is when your monetary investment in the car starts to go way, way up. So if you buy yourself a $50,000 engine, you do not need to be running a stock computer. You need a standalone. So if any of those applications apply to you, where you have a bunch of controllers that don't talk to each other to prevent a problem, or you spent a ton of money on an engine, you need a standalone. The reason being is these standalones monitor everything, and they control everything. So you could tell the Haltech here, or the Holley Dominator or Terminator here, I want you to watch the nitrous, control the nitrous. I want you to watch the whatever it is. And if things get out of bounds, I want you to shut everything down. and that saves your engine. And yes, you may lose a pass at the drag strip, but at the same time, that $100,000 you have in that car or $50,000 engine, you don't have to rebuild it. You're good. It's like, hey, the boost has gone wild, kill it. Or the oil pressure has dropped, kill it. Or whatever the case may be, that's the whole point. So guys, that's the transition point to move from a stock computer to a standalone computer. Now, which of these do you want to choose? So there's an application for both. Now, the Haltech is definitely more robust, meaning if you were to physically touch this thing and knock it around, I'm not saying you should abuse it, you can mount this out in the engine bay. It'll take it. It's fine. But the Holley is not designed for that. And if you notice, I mean, the case-wise, this is a plastic case. This is rugged. This is more metal, rubberized metal. So if I'm going to do something that's endurance related or road course racing, anything where there's vibration involved, or I want to mount a computer in the engine bay, I'm going to use a Haltech, bar none. That's the way to go. The Holley is very appropriate when you have a simple drag race car, and you can store this under the glove box, very typical application, and they're both equally powerful when it comes to what the average consumer is going to do. I'm not going to say that the Haltech can't do more than a Holley or whatever, or vice versa, depending on the model that you get of each of these. That's going to go up and down. However, I'm going to say they're both incredibly capable. But if you're using it for something, like I said, that's rough, you're going to want a Haltech. If you're using it for drag strip or just simple driving, like you've got a classic car that you want to convert to EFI, that's really where the Holley shines. Because a lot of people with 60s, 70s muscle cars that are carbureted go, man, I just want to convert it. They'll put a Holley Sniper on or a Terminator, and those things are going to run and the customer will be happy. The one thing I would caution you about, though, is don't buy on the principle that anything is self-tuning. I know that's something that's advertised in various places. Self-tuning, all that simply means is the computer can recognize there's an error and it can do something about it. But the stock computers do that, and computers have done that since the 1980s. So don't buy on that principle. Find, and in fact, honestly, find a local person that you trust, that has a good reputation. You can ask people who have driven the cars that they have tuned, whether they have a Haltech or a Holley. That's almost just as important as getting the right unit. And the reason I say that is because you may have the right unit for your application, but nobody to really help you dial it in. And so that's a huge problem. So just understand before you buy that there has to be somebody or some way, maybe the tuning school can help you, to learn how to use any of these devices. And if you don't want to learn to do it yourself, that's fine, but find someone local who is an expert in whatever brand you're choosing, so that when you choose it and install it, when there is a quirky problem, because there's going to be a quirky problem, and you're not going to know why, they will know where to look and how to resolve it. On the upside, both companies here have great support for their product. Haltech's actually out of Australia, but they have an American office, so that tells you about their dedication to support. Holley as well, they're, I believe, in Kentucky. So hardware-wise, I've explained the differences. Software-wise, as a tuner, you're going to do fine with either of these. As the average user at home, if you're interested in learning how to do it, you're probably fine with either of these. They're both equally easy to use in the get it up and running fashion. And to be honest, most of your time, and this is how these are differ, most of your time in tuning a standalone is actually spent in the setup phase. That's what we call it. So you have to tell this Haltech or this Holley, I have this sensor, this is the range, this is the temperature range, this is whatever it functions. It takes you a lot more time to set that up. Even though they typically come with some preloads to get you halfway there, you have to look at each of your sensors on the car and set that up. When you're doing, and the actual tuning process goes really fast. So when we teach a Holley class or a Haltech, you know, the setup takes forever, but once you do, the car fires up and the tuning process is quick and easy because standalones are live. You can do it on the fly. There's no pausing and uploading and waiting, and there's no copying and pasting from scanners because it's all embedded in one piece of software. I hope you have enjoyed this video, and as always, stay tuned.